It was an interesting experience I had when witnessing the announcement trailer for this game. The sword at the hunter's back screamed Monster Hunter, but everything else looked so different that I just told myself that this has to be another game entirely. I was so convinced that this franchise was never going to make the leap to a new generation that I was in complete denial. I watched as it demonstrated many elements never seen before in its previous games. Everything so far was telling me that this isn't Monster Hunter. That this franchise that has been so adamant in keeping it safe for over a decade by sticking with the walls it had since its inception was never going to break them, and it was just going to keep changing the wallpaper without any improvements on its foundation. How this huge T-Rex looking creature just chased the character on the screen, destroying everything in its path and just beating the living hell out of him. As the fighting continued, a familiar uninvited guest arrived at the scene. An iconic red wyvern known very well throughout the series crashes the party and takes the T-Rex as its prey. The hunter shoots a flare up in the sky to signal for help. The main theme of this huge franchise that I never believed was ever going to do this starts playing in the background. The main logo is shown on the screen, Monster Hunter World. I audibly gasped at the reveal of what I was denying so viciously. We are finally getting a Monster Hunter game that breaks those walls and embraces its horizons. And as a fan of the series since the PlayStation Portable days, I couldn't be happier about it. Greetings to all of you lovely viewers. My name is Lucar, and I am going to talk about how much I love this beautiful gem of a game. Now, if only it didn't have a 1% chance to drop. Curse that desire sensor. Monster Hunter World has changed a lot of stuff for the better. But before I go into that, let me explain to those of you who have not played or heard of the game what it is, how it works, and a little bit about this franchise's history. So, Monster Hunter is a series of action role-playing games where, as the title quite obviously states, you take the role of a person who hunts monsters. All games in the series have included the option for you to play by yourself or with 3 more friends. You search for monsters, hunt them, get rewarded, craft armor and weapons, repeat. That's the loop you'll constantly be in when playing these games. Each different monster you fight has their own gimmicks, weaknesses, resistances, and behaviors that make them unique to the rest of the bunch. They all drop rewards that you can use to craft armor and weapons based on them. Now, the thing that makes Monster Hunter unique to many other ARPGs is the fact that your character progression isn't based on a level that conveniently increases as you gain experience points. Here, what defines how strong you are the armor and weapons you craft from these monsters. So if you want to fight a stronger monster and succeed, you need to upgrade your armor and weapon to be able to survive and defeat it. In other words, if you change from your endgame gear to the starter one, you're back with the exact same stats you had when starting the game. These are the basic elements you'll find in every mainline Monster Hunter game. This franchise had a rough start in the West compared to the East. The first game launched for the PlayStation 2 in 2004, and while it was really well received in Japan, it wasn't received as well here in the West. It got really mixed opinions, mostly because the game was really complex and provided little to no information to a player on how to play it. Because of this, it made it a pretty intimidating experience for the Western audience to just jump right in and play. Regardless, it still managed to get a nice cult following, which only grew as more games from the series released. After the PlayStation 2 release, we got the PlayStation Portable games, and then the series made their debut on Nintendo consoles with Monster Hunter Tri in 2010. That's right, not 3, Tri. Yes, there is a 3 there, but it's silent, so you just say Tri. They chose to release it for the Wii because supposedly the development costs for the beefier consoles at the time was too expensive. It was then that the series started to get a bit more traction in the West with the release of an improved version of the Wii game called Monster Hunter 3, yes, not Tri, 3, Ultimate, which released on both Wii U and 3DS consoles. It wasn't until Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate, which released exclusively for the 3DS in 2015, that Capcom considered its Western release a success, boasting over 1 million units sold in the Western market alone. It got really positive reviews, praising how easier it was to jump in compared to previous entries thanks to added tutorials and information, which made the learning curve much easier to bear. The game sold around 4.2 million copies worldwide. But still, even with that small success, there was still something missing from the game. Look, I love these series. I have sunk in hundreds of hours into these games because of how fun and addicting they are, but after playing the first one, there was always something bugging me about each and every sequel, no matter how much I loved it. Yes, we got monsters, weapons, new features like hunting underwater, then just forgetting about that and just sticking to hunting on land and getting on top of monsters instead. But that was basically it, more content. The amount of quality of life changes were little in each iteration. We still had to keep hunting in an area with 12 or so different zones divided by loading screens. We still had to go through the chore of gathering items, which took forever, and it turned into a nuisance because your pouch didn't have enough space to carry everything you gathered. The need to go to a wiki or downloading an app to get the information you need for everything the game doesn't tell you, or that it does but it's not user friendly enough for you to bother getting it through there. But the constant struggle of having to make different types of armor, whether you're using a melee or ranged weapon. The map and health bars taking up a huge portion of the screen due to the low resolution of the consoles you had to play these games on. There was just a lot of things that stayed consistent in every game where nothing was done to improve it. Mostly because the developers kept making the games and consoles running with old hardware components, providing very little in performance boost. While the series kept selling and people like me kept loving it and buying more from it, it was stuck. Until it happened. Okay, so let's start with what you can notice at a glance. This game looks beautiful. The graphical leap from PlayStation 2 era graphics to the current one makes this incredibly noticeable. And it's just amazing to look at how far we've gone since then. The locales you'll visit in it are filled with so much lush in every sense of the word. Yes, every sense of the word. The flora you'll find is so colorful and unique for every place you'll visit. One thing in particular that you'll find here that wasn't present in the previous titles is the unique fauna that you'll encounter in each zone. These small creatures bring a lot of life and character to the places you'll explore, and you can even capture them and put them on display on your room. It no longer feels like a backdrop where you'll be fighting monsters, but a living and breathing ecosystem where you have to learn its unique rules in order to effectively hunt these huge creatures you'll be fighting within them. And it's all just a marvel to look at. From an ancient green forest to a colorful underwater looking wonderland to a decrepit land of corpses, the places here just ooze imagination and creativity. But that's enough about me babbling about how amazing all these areas look, because this goes double for the monsters, which are the highlights of this game. The motion capture done has been tweaked so well by its animators that the way the monsters move looks so natural they look like actual living creatures with their own individual personality. This is only further enhanced when two different monsters encounter each other in the same place, and start what's called a turf war, where they start fighting each other with their own unique animations which are different based on the monsters taking place on it. You can't help but stop fighting when an event like this occurs. It's just so fascinating to look at these huge monsters fight it out and find out which one will end up being the victor. These interactions alone give it a lot of character to the world and definitely makes it feel more real than previous entries. The non-playable characters that you meet in it look great and are full of life. Armor looks nice and shiny, and the weapons look great in motion with their flashy attacks. The customization options for creating your character are surprisingly broad compared to previous entries in the franchise, and you can actually make some really nice looking characters based on other media or just create the silliest looking hunter. You can even customize your cat companion. which is called a palico, and clearly, this is the best feature in the game. No, but seriously, look at them. They're so damn cute and fluffy. I actually managed to make mine look identical to my own cat thanks to the customization options in the game. And all I want to do now is protect her. And have you seen the Poogie? Ah, I just want to hug it, carry it, and take it to the nearest chef to cook it. Cook the Poogie! So, let's talk about one of the most important elements in every Monster Hunter game. The story. If you've ever met a Monster Hunter fan, you know that the one thing they don't shut up about is the amazing storytelling and iconic characters the series brings to life. Uncharted? The Last of Us? The Witcher? Pfft, none of these games compare to the masterpiece that is Monster Hunter in telling a story. I mean, who could forget such amazing and iconic characters like Handler, Commander, Admiral, the Seeker, the Tracker, the Huntsman, Field Team Leader, Elder Melder, Arena Lass, and my favorite, Provisions Stockpile. All hail Provisions Stockpile. Okay, so if you didn't notice that I was being sarcastic, then I am sorry to inform you that Monster Hunter has never been about the story and that you will never hear a fan of the series talk about it. I lied, and for that I apologize. The Monster Hunter series has never been that into its story, and this is very clear by just playing any main game in the series. Now that doesn't mean that they don't convey a story within their games, it's just never the real focus in them. With that said though, Monster Hunter World is the most cinematic experience within the franchise's history. It is full with beautifully animated cutscenes that transition seamlessly into gameplay. You start off as a new hunter that's part of the 5th Fleet, sent to follow a huge monster that's on its way to the new world. You start by meeting some of the characters of the game inside the ship, only for the monster your fleet is following to interrupt it. As you progress through the game, you hunt and research the monsters found in this place, and discover the secrets behind the huge creature that interrupted your entry to it. Everything is presented as a top-notch AAA quality title. Does it truly provide you with an explanation as to why you are mass murdering a bunch of monsters who are just minding their own business? No. Will it give you some vague excuse as to why you should? Most definitely. Every main monster you'll encounter in the game will be introduced with a cutscene that will transition into gameplay afterwards, which is a treat if you ask me. There's also a really interesting backstory on how some of the areas that you visit came to be. It may not be the most moving or groundbreaking story you've seen, but it definitely provides a nice touch for the game for those who will appreciate it. So let's go and hunt a monster. Once you clear the introduction of the game, you reach its main hub. This is where you'll interact with non-playable characters, purchase items, craft armor and weapons, take quests for hunts, etc. You basically do everything here except hunting monsters. So first, we go and choose a quest. Then, once we know who our target is, we make sure we have a suitable weapon we are comfortable with. The game has 14 weapons to choose from, 11 melee and 3 range. All of them control and feel very different. So if you don't know which weapon is best for you, you can go to your room, speak with your trusty feline housekeeper and go to the training area. Wait, there's a training area? What? Are you telling me I don't have to go blindly with a new weapon to a quest to learn how it works? I can just jump right into this training area and test things out to my heart's content with no timer? Oh my lord. This is good. This is really good. It gives you pretty much everything you need to test out your weapons. The heads-up display provides you with convenient button/key prompts for you to know what you can do with each one. There's also a nifty guide in the main menu which tells you the moveset for each weapon with a few things omitted for you to discover on your own as you keep using it. Once you got a weapon you feel comfortable with, you can go ahead and start the quest. So let's go ahead, let's start. So okay, something's wrong here. where's the minimap that takes a fourth of the screen space? Oh, it's much more compact and better now. Wait, where's the two huge health and stamina bars that took the entirety of the top of the screen in my previous games? Oh, they now made them smaller while I'm outside of combat. That's nice. Oh wait, we completely forgot to eat before starting the quest. Eating before a quest is really important as it provides you with really decent boost and can give you random skills to give you an edge in battle. Wait, what? We can eat at the base camp during a quest? Okay, that's really nice. Oh no! We forgot to stock up on potions, change our equipped armor and weapon, and also forgot to dress our cute Palico in style for the occasion before starting the quest. Are you serious? I can do all of these in the base camp? These weren't even quality of life changes I was asking for. This is amazing! And it doesn't stop there. The quality of life changes just keep popping up. And there are too many of them. It's pretty insane actually. I'm just at a loss of words when I started playing this game. There's just so many things that are just better. The locations where you now hunt monsters are no longer divided by loading screens. It's all loaded up together in one instance, and there's way more verticality to the maps than in previous titles of the franchise. The way you search for monsters now has changed. While in previous games you had to search endlessly for a monster with no idea where they were and use what was called a paintball to keep track of them on the map, now you have to actually track the monsters down by checking for footprints and other clues. You have these fireflies that assist you in finding points of interest for you to research the monster, and as you keep finding tracks, you gain points to increase your knowledge of it, which eventually you'll level up and it gets revealed in the map. As you continue fighting and getting their tracks, eventually you'll cap the level and no longer have any need of tracking it down. And this doesn't just help you in knowing where the monster is, it also provides you with knowledge of whether the monster is exhausted or capturable, and provides you with additional information in your monster guide. This includes monsters' weaknesses, resistances, locations, and even rewards they drop and how to gain them. All included in a handy guide in-game. No need to look for an external guide to remind you of a monster's details. The fireflies also guide you towards any monster you're currently tracking, and highlights things near you that you can gather or interact with. It's so streamlined and at the same time fits so well with the theme of the game that it just feels natural after a while to just collect tracks as you run around. The way you gather items has also been vastly improved. You now have 3 different item pouches when on a hunt, versus only 2 on the previous main game. You have one for your regular consumables and tools you use while hunting, an ammo one for your ranged weapons, and you have another one specifically to carry materials for crafting armor and weapons. You no longer have to worry about discarding consumables because you don't have space for crafting materials. Gone are the days of bringing pickaxes and bug nets that take inventory space and break randomly per each gathering attempt. Consumable items gathered in the field are picked up immediately without you having to wait an eternity to gather each one. Whenever you find any gathering spot, it gets marked on the map, and when you gather it, the icon on the map turns darker and gets filled with color to indicate when it will spawn again. Additionally, you can now even set up for the game to automatically craft items as you pick them up, saving you the trouble of crafting them yourself. Whenever you consume any of these items, your character will no longer stop in place until the animation ends. You can now walk and run while consuming. Oh, did I mention that you now have a whetstone with infinite uses which doesn't take inventory space? And that whenever you're using any of these items, you can cancel their usage by simply dodging? Yeah, it's insanely good. And this is just the icing on the cake. The developers weren't satisfied with just simple quality of life changes. No, they just had to change everyone's approach in hunting monsters. Introducing the Slinger. This little slingshot and another thing that I'll go into later changes everything in how you hunt monsters. While in previous titles you had throwable items where the only way you could aim was by the direction your character was looking at, here you can properly aim whatever you wish to thanks to your trusty slinger. It is your main tool to throw stones and other items to monsters. This includes popular throwable items from previous titles like the Flash, Dung, and Sonic Bombs. But instead of bombs, they are now called pods, which you can equip. You can find different types of ammo for your slinger everywhere when you're hunting. Even monsters drop ammo for it. You just pick it up like any other consumable item and it automatically equips itself into it, placing the one you currently have equipped. Oh, did I also mention that it has a hookshot as well? Well, it does. In every location where you hunt in the game, you will find these beetles hanging out on high places that you can hookshot to. These help as shortcuts to hide to reach areas, a quick escape from a monster attack, or a great way to just do an air attack to mount a monster. But that's not all, folks. There's another use for it. One that changes how you'll view a fight based on where you are. With the slinger, you can also trigger environmental traps. Hunting in Monster Hunter World is incredibly dynamic and much more complex compared to previous titles. This is all because each and every location you'll visit in the game has an interactive environment that can both reward you and or punish you. What makes a good hunter now isn't just knowing a monster's weaknesses, behavior, which tools and armor to use, and mastering your weapon. A good hunter is also aware of where they are hunting and what they can use within the environment to their advantage. There are huge plants where you can hide to avoid conflict. Some of them have poison sacks that you can cut to create a pool of poison on the floor, causing anyone that walks over it, including monsters, to get poisoned. Others explode and cause a smoke screen, making you invisible to monsters. There are toads that when hit will secrete a gas substance that can make anyone that gets in contact with it get paralyzed, go to sleep, or even explode. There are soft floors that can cause a monster when hit really hard to sink and get stuck in it, making it a great opportunity to do tons of damage. Loose boulders that can be shot with a slinger pod to fall on top of monsters to do extra damage or interrupt them. There are walls where you can run up to them to do a quick aerial attack to mount a monster. Slopes which you can slide when going downhill to reach an escaping monster quicker, and while sliding, you can do an additional aerial attack to either mount or stagger them. You can jump on vines like a man of the jungle and get to other places quicker. There's a ton of stuff in each area in the game for you to play around and experiment with when hunting that makes every hunt way more exciting and dynamic than any previous game in the series. This makes every location that you visit in the game unique and not feel like just a backdrop to hunt monsters. It makes your approach hunts entirely different to how you did before. You also have these new tools called mantles and boosters, which provide you with much needed support during really tough fights in the game. Fellow hunters can now join your quest seamlessly while you're in the middle of it by them being on the same online session as yours, or if you fire an SOS signal, which makes your quest visible for anyone in the game online. Crafting and upgrading armor and weapons is now much better than before. When upgrading weapons, you are now provided with a full upgrade tree where you can see all the different branches you can get to and gives you a much better sense of what you are doing. You can even downgrade weapons and recover materials used if you regret doing one. You even have a wish list to keep track of the weapons and armor you want to craft. Additionally, in the armor side, you now don't need to have a different set whether you're using a melee or ranged weapon. You just need one set and you can use any weapon you want with that armor set you have set up for yourself. The skill system has also been greatly streamlined, making it way less complicated than it was before. Each armor piece, for example, now provides you with a specific skill instead of points to gain a skill, and some armor sets can give you unique skills that are only available by equipping X amount of pieces from it. Charms and decorations are also back from previous games to give you even more options in customizing your loadout. There's also no lack of content at all here. You get investigations, which are randomly generated quests that you unlock as you track and hunt monsters. These investigations provide you with bonus rewards and extra challenges not encountered in the quests you can regularly take in the game, and are the preferred method for getting hard to get drops from monsters. And if that isn't enough, you also have bounties, which reward you for doing basic tasks like gathering, hunting specific monsters, or doing quests in specific locations. You also have online weekly bounties, you have daily login bonuses in which you are given a voucher that you can use to double your rewards in a quest, plus other goodies for just logging in. And of course, there are still the weekly event quests which provide you with unique rewards that you can get from them. The game is constantly rewarding you to make the grind you are doing feel more worthwhile while providing you with more content. But even with all of these improvements, there's another thing they just went all over with that made this entire experience so much better than previous games. The soundtrack. Monster Hunter World sounds different. It sounds more inspired than its previous iterations. It sounds like it cares where you are and the state of the hunt taking place there. The way people hunt in this game has changed, and the music needs to adapt to it in order to further emphasize it. There's a different track whenever you start a quest, whether it's day or night. Fighting small monsters? There's a track for that. Beating down huge monsters? Yep, there's also a different track for that also. Large monsters running away from crazy genocidal hunters? Oh yeah, we definitely got a track for that. Uninvited toxic person telling you their take on something you didn't ask them to? We got a track for that too. Just remember to always throw poop at them so they run away for a limited time only. Just as hunting in this game is more dynamic than in previous titles, so is the music. Previously, whenever you were hunting a specific monster, a track played to convey that combat is taking place. If the monster ran away and left the instanced area, the music stopped and only silence was welcomed afterwards until you reached the same area the monster was in. Since the locales where you hunt are completely open now and undivided by loading screens, chasing a monster while it's running away feels entirely different. This is because it no longer feels like they move from one isolated place to another, but another position in the same place you are. Due to this, whenever you are hunting and the monster starts to run away, the music transitions to a different arrangement of the same track that conveys a feeling that a chase is taking place and that the fight isn't really over, but just changing to a different position in the map. This makes the fights in the game feel more engaging and less isolated. In addition to all of this, each and every location you'll visit to hunt has a completely different selection of tracks unique to its environment. The music you'll listen in the background when fighting small, medium, and large monsters are all unique to the locale you're in, with the exception of a few special monsters that have their own themes. I would also like to point out that this soundtrack has 4 composers, and the selection of tracks for each area is dominated by a different composer. The music tracks you'll listen in the Ancient Forest, for example, are all composed by Yuko Komiyama, while the ones you listen in the Wildspire Wastes were composed by Akihiko Narita. Having a different composer for each area makes them stand out from each other and provide a more grounded identity for the hunting environment. I just love the soundtrack. I bought it just a couple of days after I bought the game on PC. I especially really like the tracks in the Rotten Fatal, which are just really good. Just has a nice beat to it whenever you're fighting. Here, you are called a hunter of the Fifth Fleet, and are reminded of it constantly. You are the new kid, and there were 4 more fleets that arrived before you that struggled to fully discover everything in this new world had to offer. This was clearly a reference to the franchise's history. It is clear that this game is Monster Hunter 5, and that without its previous titles, it wouldn't have existed. It took 4 of them to finally bring the one that was going to take them to the top. I still can't believe I'm playing this game. I really didn't think Capcom was going to give the series the budget it deserved and properly evolve the franchise to something more streamlined yet more complex than its previous titles. But they did, and I am so happy because of it. The game feels like a completely new experience, and it's still the same Monster Hunter I know and love. It's still satisfying to make a monster fall with a well-timed hit or trick them to falling into a trap, which now feels much better with environmental traps being introduced. It looks beautiful, and I can run at a steady 60 frames in my PC, making it way more comfortable for me to play in. The soundtrack is fantastic and fits the game perfectly. The added quality of life features I didn't even ask for or think of after over a decade of playing the series. It's just so good, guys. If you've never played Monster Hunter before, this is the best game for you to jump in. If you didn't like it before because it felt archaic and or hard to get into because of all its complex elements, then if you ever want to give the series another go, this is the one you should play to give it its second chance. Monster Hunter World is now Capcom's best-selling game, period. It has surpassed over 10 million copies sold worldwide versus the 4 million its previous game did. This was clearly what Monster Hunter needed. For me, this game is a dream come true. It's a huge milestone for a video game franchise that felt like it was stuck for almost 14 years on the console generation it debuted on. If you tolerated all my love for this game till this point, then let me say thank you for watching. I really appreciate it and hope you enjoyed it. This is Lucar with love to all of you lovely people out there. You'll have a wonderful and lovely rest of your day, and take care. See you on the next video.